Good afternoon and welcome to the Underbrush podcast. This is a Liger Studios podcast where we uncover the secrets of marketing. I'm joined here this afternoon by Danny Gonzales of DMG Architectural Specialists. Danny, how you doing this morning?
Yeah, I'm doing
great. Afternoon, rather.
No, it's a great afternoon. Thanks for having me, and just happy to join you today.
Well, thanks for braving the weather. It's tornado watches out there. It's crazy stuff, but we've got a good view up here, so we can see it all roll in.
So as it approaches, we can take cover if we need to.
Right, you're right. Oh, yeah, that's a tornado. We should probably go downstairs. Yeah. Well, cool. So, Danny, I obviously know you very well, but for the viewers that are watching now or will watch later, give us a little bit of an intro, kind of background to who you are, and then a little bit about DMG.
So, my background, I'm a second-generation industry professional.
Okay.
My father was one of three men back in 1978 who moved an architectural wood column company from Chicago to Doraville. And I was not smart enough to go to school and get higher education after high school, so he put me to work in the shop.
Okay.
And from that experience, after 18 years or so, just really became extremely knowledgeable in architectural wood column manufacturing. Was finally hired by a competing CEO of another company.
Sorry, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but that was my first vice president's role.
Okay, cool.
And I just really fell in love with the industry, with the manufacturing process, and of understanding the architectural orders of wood column manufacturing. So we'll fast forward from there, after working for several other people, decided that I could really service the industry on my own and make my own money.
Sure.
And so in 2008, launched DMG Architectural Specialists. The idea really being at that time was that I really wanted to create and bring a great experience to my clients. And I hate using the Jerry Maguire euphemism of fewer clients, right? But that's really what it was.
Right.
I wanted to really service my clients at the highest levels, just with great products and great service. And that's really what we've become. It's taken a while to kind of build this model, but it's a very unique model, and I'm very happy with it, very happy to serve the clients that we have, like your father.
Yeah.
And such. Again, so my background, if I really am an expert in anything, it's really in manufacturing. But I've been able to kind of to parlay that over into sales and consulting.
Sure.
And so that's kind of how we got here.
Love that. You're also an expert in people, in the fact that you know everybody and everybody knows you and everybody loves you. And so I think that's also a trait that can't really be taught. And I just think that's something that's very interesting that I try and emulate just from my time that I've known you of, all right, how would Danny do this? How does he spin this to, But
well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. But you talk about the success that you've had and the model that you've got is very unique. What is that model for success with DMG?
So really, going back to the fewer clients aspect of it. So the idea from the beginning was always to just offer a superior experience. So how do we do that, right? So it's really by listening to our clients, understanding what are their greatest needs, what are their greatest challenges, their hurdles, and try to really bring a solution to every hurdle and challenge that they have.
Yeah.
And do it in a professional manner. It's not about profits. It's about helping my clients look fantastic in front of their clients. And if you do this long enough and if you do it well, people know when you're genuine.
Sure.
And people know when you're just chasing money. So we don't chase money. What we're really after is building long-term relationships that create value. And I can say that almost every one of my long-term clients have turned into a personal friendship.
Yeah.
And that's really, really where it's at. And so, by doing all this, we're creating that value. It's kind of, we do very little marketing. Most of our business comes through referral. And so we've been very fortunate, that we can do this at the highest levels. A lot of the projects are very complex, so it takes a lot of hand-holding, but it's all about that listening and just offering a variety of solutions. And once you do this long enough, the people will just keep coming back to you.
That's right. Yeah, you keep putting the bucket in the well, and once you find the right well, you just keep going back to the well.
Exactly.
And it's always there.
Exactly.
Well, that's interesting. And I find that in a lot of the guys that I bring on here that happen to be through Dad is that it seems to be a referral-based market, and that anything in construction and architecture and things like that there's maybe it was a long time ago that you're not allowed to, like, you can't tell anybody that you're doing this. You just need to talk to your friends. And I could be wrong, so I mean, correct me if I'm wrong there, but it's very interesting that it's a lot of referral basis, but that speaks to the model that you've got because it's building long-term relationships. And so those long-term relationships inherently bring on new referrals.
Exactly.
But talk to me a little bit about the solutions that you're bringing to the clients. So what is it that you guys do with DMG?
So that's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of the value is created in DMG. Mm-hmm. So because we've been doing this for quite a long time, we have very long-term relationships with custom fabricators across the country. Mm-hmm. And so the way that this was created is that my clients began to ask for more and more and more. Mm-hmm. And they were throwing me these challenges. Your father threw me a huge challenge many, many years ago.
He's good at that.
With these custom columns that he wanted us to recreate 100% full scale for the Windsor Ruins in Mississippi.
Oh, yeah.
And these were 150-year-old columns. Mm-hmm. Your father hired a high-definition laser scanning company. Mm-hmm. He gave me the scanned images and said, basically, here, go and create this full scale.
Yeah.
Well, this was a monumental task because these columns were 42 inches in diameter, fluted with a Corinthian cap, 42 feet tall.
Wow.
That took a lot of creativity, a lot of engineering, a lot of skill. Mm-hmm. Not just anyone can recreate this. And so through the years, we've been asked for more and more and more. One of my biggest challenges was I had a request for an interior stainless steel 34-foot tall spiral slide.
Wow.
But the house was already built and the homeowners had already moved in. And this was for an 18,000 square foot house. So the architect called and was in serious trouble. His client wanted this slide, and the GC had no way of sourcing it. So I just asked him, give me about a month, let me figure this out. And long story short, I found a custom fabricator that could fabricate and install. And so those are the more unique requests, but we get a lot of other requests. We want to replicate a column capital. We need a custom wood carving. We need just think about it.
Sure.
And because we work in a wide variety of materials, metal, glass, steel, plaster, composites. So when you have all those various material sources, then you can get very creative based on what is the application. In other words, how do you want to use this material? How do you want it to perform? And from there, we begin to do our research and find that right material at the right price to fit that project.
Right. So in the scenario with the Windsor, were they recreations of the same material that they were originally built out of, or were these cast? Or
so another great question. Because of the complexity of the project, we had to use a variety of different materials. So the substrate, the actual structural interior of the column, was a solid FRP tube. From that, we had to apply.
And what's an FRP tube?
Fiber reinforced polymer.
Okay.
Just think of a boat hull. It's that same type of fiberglass material.
Okay.
And from there, we had to apply styrofoam sections of a fluted column. For the Corinthian capital, this was a 5-foot tall Corinthian capital.
That's huge.
So all the ornamentation that went on the capital had to be carved in clay. Then a mold was made from that, and then we cast the pieces in polyurethane. All those pieces had to be individually applied to the substrate. And then after everything was put together, then we sprayed a couple of thin layers of a polyurethane coat over it. But then we had to make it look like it was 150 years old. So we had custom finishers who came in and hand painted certain elements of this.
Wow.
It was crazy over the top, but a lot of fun.
So what's the application? Where did these end up?
So these currently are outside of the Mississippi Museum of Art in Jackson, Mississippi.
Super cool.
Yeah. It was a fun project. It was probably one of the more stressful projects I've ever encountered.
Right.
But
on the back end, though, you're like, hey, that was a pretty cool project.
Everyone was happy.
Yeah.
Including the 2 state senators who funded the project.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow. It's interesting that you kind of talk about your model and how you navigate through these challenges. And so one of the core values of Liger is we are creative solutioners. And so I would say that you are about the same, in that you take the problem, you get creative, and then you find the solution. And so in your scenario, with the Windsor, just for example, is here was the problem, here's the scenario, here's what you were tasked with, completing this challenge. You had to get creative in using this fiberglass piece in the middle so that it would be structurally sound, and then bring in the other pieces to make it look right. And then you have the other added feature of it's got to be to full scale. It's a 42-foot tall column.
Exactly.
And so, bringing all that together with your expertise, your know-how, and the people that are around you, you inherently become a creative solutioner.
It was a lot of fun. And, that's why our clients love us. They can throw these crazy things at us. And one thing that I've learned in this industry is I try not to tell my clients no. And maybe that's my fault, but that's the creative side of me.
Right.
I really love the challenge of coming up with a viable solution that will fit the budget and the application, and again, that will make my clients shine in front of their clients. They don't need to know who DMG is. We just need to know that we're doing good work at a fair price, and then we can all go home and sleep well at night.
Right. And so that kind of brings into the how you create these values for your clients, and then the long-term aspects of it. And so, being that you created in 2008 DMG, and then you did the Windsor with Dad, and when was that?
That was probably 2015, maybe.
Okay. And had you worked with him before, or was that kind of the initial?
Well, I first met your father in 2007.
Okay.
When I was a national sales manager for a company, and I don't know how we found each other, but he was doing a project that required a bunch of custom columns, and so we met at his office, and we just kind of hit it off, and just kind of went from there. And he continues to challenge me even as we speak.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and part of that is the longer you continually don't say no, the more history behind that you have to where you're like, well, I can say yes, because every time they tell me to do something, I figure out a way to do it. And so psychologically, you're almost training yourself of, hey, I can do this. I'll figure it out. What is the problem?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that's the fun.
Yeah.
It's, bring us your problems and challenges. And it's gotten to the point where many of my architect clients will sit around in a conference room and they're trying to figure things out, and then someone will say, hey, wait a minute, let's just call Danny. And so I become an extension of some of these firms. I'm not on their payroll, but it's, don't rack your brain trying to figure it out.
Sure.
Just give me a call. And if I can help you, I'll tell you that I'll help you. And if I can't, I'm going to tell you that I can.
Right. And so do you find in a lot of these scenarios, because I can imagine some of these things are not cheap, right? But they're coming to you because they know they're going to get quality service and quality products.
Right.
Does that ever play a factor into what you're doing?
Not normally. On most of these projects, they're rather complex projects. And so they have budgets available for this. They're primarily looking for a solution.
Sure.
How do we pull this off?
Yeah.
How are we going to do it? Here's the aesthetic that we want, and we want to keep this particular element in the project so that it doesn't go away because of budget.
Right.
So how can we make it look the way that we want it to look without crushing our, our budget and everyone's happy?
Yeah. And so what are some of the ways that you do that? Is it by material? Is it by...
So what I'll do when someone sends me whatever it is, it could be anything, I'm going to look and see, how are you using it?
Mm-hmm.
What part of the country are you using it in? What are the most appropriate materials? In other words, what are the options that we have
Mm-hmm.
as far as material goes?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we begin to price the project. We may price a particular item on a project 3 or 4 different ways until we can narrow down what is the right material that will perform, but yet meet that budget.
Right.
So that's kind of where it gets a little tricky, and that really, what I like about it is that really separates a lot of the companies out, and so less competition, and so thereby we're bringing that value. We're creating value to our clients. So instead of a client meeting with 4 or 5, 6 different people, they can just meet with me,
Yeah.
and I've got all these sources and finished materials, and there's not too much that we haven't seen out there. I mean, it does happen every now and then, but
It's like a one-stop shop.
we're pretty good at what we do.
Yeah. So what is the factor of where it is in the country? Is that just the natural elements of, if you're in Utah, it's going to be cold, and Georgia, it's going to be humid?
Exactly. So you might have a project in the Bahamas,
Okay.
and someone wants a very nice, extensive trim package, and your go-to is wood, right? Because it's cheap. But you don't want to do that in the Bahamas because that wood is going to,
Swell.
it's just going to walk off the walls, with all the humidity.
Right.
So we have other materials and products that would be very suitable. We can do it in plaster. Okay, but what kind of plaster? I can do it in 3 or 4 different types of plasters.
Right.
And so again, we just look, is it an indoor pool house? And if it's an indoor pool house, okay, I have certain materials that work really well in that environment. And so when I said earlier, that really separates a lot of the companies. A lot of companies out there who are suppliers don't have enough experience and expertise to really look at the application. They just want to sell you something,
Sure.
whether it's going to work or not. And so, but we're not like that, because again, we don't chase profits. We are chasing good work.
Right.
We want to do good work for our clients that is the appropriate material for the application, and thereby most of our business, probably 70 to 75%, is all repeat business.
That's pretty impressive. That speaks to who you guys are as DMG and your character. Because
Thank you.
if you guys weren't good and you didn't have the quality, they probably wouldn't be coming back.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so there's that's an age-old lesson that I think a lot of us don't know or forget is, as soon as you start chasing the money, it's really hard to find.
Bad things happen.
Bad things happen. And so go after people, go after relationships, because that's where business is. It's with people. People buy from people.
Exactly. And so by design, we are not hunters. We work with just select type of clients. In that manner, we're able to really service them. And that's really what we're about. It's that service. How can we improve? And
Sure.
I'm constantly asking my clients, how can I improve the service or the materials that we are offering you? What else do you need? What can we be doing better? Because there's always room for improvement. So once you think that you have become all things to all people, you're not, and
Right.
and things just go south. So we're constantly learning, and we learn with our clients, and so we've enjoyed the ride.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know this, but I follow some Stoicism, and so there's an old saying of, a man cannot learn what he thinks he already knows.
I love that saying.
But it's true. You're like, oh, well, I know architectural pieces. As soon as you say that, as soon as you think that, your learning has just plateaued, right? There's so much more to learn. There's so much more to gather. There's all this information out there. There's all this history back there, which you know from my dad is a big history buff, and especially with preservationist types of architecture, right? There's endless amounts. I mean, we've got Italianate, you've got Greek architecture, you've got Victorian. I mean, and there's branches off of those and branches off of those. And so, you know, as soon as you put the ceiling up, that's your ceiling.
You're so right. You're
Yeah.
so right.
Well, cool. You know, one thing that's not on here that I did want to ask you about was, you know, you say you guys haven't done a whole lot of marketing. Are you active on any kinds of social pieces? Are you, you know, do you have handout pamphlets and things when you go to places that has your work on it and almost like a portfolio standpoint?
No, you know what? That's probably our downside.
Okay.
We have really failed miserably at any type of marketing in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have a website, and a quick story about that. This is a website that I don't even use. And the only reason that this website was created in 2014 was because my clients were coming to me and saying, listen, we have a hard time explaining what you do to our clients. Can you please just have a website, just throw some pictures up so that they can see the types of work that you do. Mm-hmm. And again, I mean, it can get a little difficult explaining my business model. Mm-hmm. But we do have an Instagram. Mm-hmm. And I'm on LinkedIn, but really that's about it. And I don't think I've ever gotten a single project off my website. Again, we spent a long time developing these relationships. Mm-hmm. We've just put in a tremendous amount of time, and so all that is paying off. And so we're very happy with that. We're old dogs, so we're not really into that social media stuff. But so we're going to keep doing, you know, what's worked for us, and we never want to get big enough that we're not able to service our clients, because that would be awful.
Yeah, well, it takes away from who you guys are.
Exactly.
Yeah. What's interesting about what you said was some of the people that are referring you, they need more information to be able to refer you. And so there's almost this kind of catch-22 within marketing that allows your referrals to then refer you, but they need some of that content. They need some of the, all right, what does DMG do? Because I know it, but I don't know how to say it. So...
Okay, so the good thing is that we are in the process of launching a new website, just to kind of give it a refresh and a more polished look. Hopefully that'll be done in the next month.
Okay.
But that will give you a really good idea of what we do, how we do, and where we do.
Sure. Yeah, we preach that your website should be your best brochure. So in as little words as possible, what do you do? Why do you do it? And why should I have you do it for me?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's perfect. Speaking of your website, for the viewers that want to get in contact with you or have a need in the architectural space, what is the best way to get in contact with you or with DMG in general? Is it go to the website? Is it
Yes,
call
that
you on
would
the
be
phone?
through our website. So you can reach us at www.dmgarchitectural.com.
Cool. Love it. Well, Danny, I appreciate you coming out here in the midst of a storm.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
And thanks for clearing it out for us. It looks like the weather is starting to roll away. So
yeah, hopefully I'll make it home okay.
Yeah. Well, it's been absolutely a pleasure to have you on, Danny. Everyone, thanks for tuning in this week on The Underbrush. I'm your host, Dakota Ward, was joined here this week by Danny Gonzales of DMG Architectural Specialists.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Have a good day.